Welcome to Heidi Relationships. Today, we'll read some more stories from Reddit. But before we start, I would really appreciate if you could subscribe to the channel, like the video if you enjoyed it, and maybe leave a comment down below. That would help the channel a lot. Thank you very much in advance. The first one is titled, "My fiance wants to invite his ex to our wedding. I postponed it." What started as a simple wedding guest list discussion turned into a relationship-defining moment that made me question everything I thought I knew about my fiancé, Luis. Before I dive into the drama that unfolded around my wedding plans, let me give you some background about Luis and me. I think it's important to understand where we came from to really grasp how we got here. I met Luis when I was 28 and he was 31. Before him, I'd had my fair share of relationships, including one serious boyfriend in college who taught me what I didn't want in a partner. Luis seemed different from the start. He was established in his career as a software developer, owned his own home, and had this quiet confidence that drew me in without being arrogant. Our first meeting at that pub quiz night was actually pretty funny. My friend had dragged me there, insisting I needed to get out more after my recent promotion had turned me into a bit of a workaholic. I was leading our marketing team at a mid-sized company, and admittedly, my social life had taken a back seat. "Amy," she had said that night, "if you don't start meeting new people, you're going to end up married to your laptop." I remember rolling my eyes at her, but went along anyway. Luis was on an opposing team with his friends, and during a break between rounds, he came over to playfully accuse us of cheating because we were doing too well on the movie trivia section. "Nobody gets all the 80s movie questions right unless they're Googling," he said with a grin. I shot back. "Or unless their dad owns a video rental store and they spent their entire childhood watching movies instead of playing outside like a normal kid." His face lit up. "No way, your dad owned a video store?" "Yep, we closed in 2010 when streaming killed the industry, but I probably watched every movie we had in stock at least twice." We ended up talking for so long that both our teams lost the quiz because we weren't paying attention to the questions anymore. After that night, we started dating and everything felt easy and natural. Luis was thoughtful, funny, and seemed to have his life together in a way that matched where I was in mine. I knew about Kylie, his ex, in broad strokes. He had mentioned early in our relationship that he'd had one serious girlfriend through college and for a couple of years after. He told me they'd grown apart and wanted different things, so they broke up. It seemed like ancient history, and I never pushed for more details because, honestly, who wants to dwell on their partner's past relationships? Looking back, I should have noticed some red flags. Luis was always private about his social media, keeping his phone face down and changing the subject whenever anything from his past came up. But I trusted him completely and respected his privacy, maybe too much. Our relationship progressed quickly, but naturally. Within 6 months, we were spending every weekend together. At 1 year, we moved in together, combining our lives in his craftsman-style house that had enough room for my home office and his gaming setup. We adopted a golden retriever, started hosting regular dinner parties for our friends, and fell into a comfortable routine that felt like we'd been doing it forever. The proposal came during a weekend trip to the coast, 2 years into our relationship. We were walking along the beach at sunset. Yes, I know how cliché that sounds, but it was perfect. Luis had been acting nervous all day, which wasn't like him, but I figured it was because he'd been stressed about a big project at work. Instead, he stopped walking, turned to me, and gave this beautiful speech about how he'd never met anyone who understood him like I did, who could make him laugh even on his worst days, who supported his dreams while pursuing her own. Then he got down on one knee, pulled out a ring, and asked me to marry him. I said yes immediately. The ring was perfect, a vintage-style emerald-cut diamond that he'd apparently spent months searching for because he knew I preferred classic designs over modern ones. It showed how well he knew me, how much thought he put into making the moment special. Our families were thrilled. My parents, especially my dad, adored Luis. He would spend hours in Dad's garage helping him restore his vintage Mustang while Mom would beam at them from the kitchen window, probably already planning our wedding in her head. Luis's parents welcomed me just as warmly. His mom immediately started treating me like the daughter she never had. She had 3 sons, and his dad would always save the crossword puzzle from his Sunday paper for me because he knew I loved them. Everything seemed perfect. We spent the first few months of our engagement in a happy bubble, starting to plan our future together. We talked about having kids in a few years, maybe buying a bigger house in a better school district, all those dreams that seem so natural when you're in love and planning a life together. That's why what happened next blindsided me so completely. When you're building a life with someone you trust absolutely, the last thing you expect is to discover they've been keeping secrets that could shake the foundation of your relationship. The wedding planning was going smoothly at first. We agreed on most things: a medium sized wedding with about 150 guests, an outdoor ceremony in spring, and a reception at this beautiful converted barn venue we both loved. But then came the guest list discussion. We were sitting at our kitchen table one Sunday morning, going through names and addresses for the invitations. I was typing everything into a spreadsheet while Luis read names from his list. "Oh, and add Kylie to the list," he said casually, as if he was mentioning his cousin or a colleague. I stopped typing. Kylie, his ex-girlfriend of 5 years, the one he dated all through college and 2 years after, the one he almost proposed to before they broke up 6 years ago. "I'm sorry, what?" I asked, hoping I'd heard wrong. Luis looked up from his list. "Kylie, I want to invite her to the wedding." I felt like someone had dumped a bucket of ice water over my head. "Your ex-girlfriend Kylie? The one you were with for 5 years?" "Yeah," he said, shrugging. "We're still friends. We run into each other sometimes at industry events, and we've kept in touch." This was news to me. In our 3 years together, he'd never mentioned staying in contact with her. "You've been in touch with her this whole time?" "Well, yeah, we follow each other on social media and we email occasionally. It's not a big deal." Not a big deal? My hands were shaking as I closed my laptop. "Luis, you never told me you were still in contact with her." "I didn't think it was important," he said, looking increasingly defensive. "We're just friends now. It's been years since we broke up." "Just friends?" I couldn't keep the disbelief out of my voice. "Important enough to invite to our wedding, but not important enough to mention to me for 3 years?" "Look, Amy," he sighed, using that patronizing tone that always made my blood boil. "Kylie and I ended things amicably. We've both moved on. She's actually married now, and I want her to be there on our day. What's the problem?" "The problem?" I stood up, needing to move, to do something with the nervous energy coursing through my body. "The problem is you've been hiding this friendship from me for our entire relationship. The problem is you want to invite someone you almost married to watch you marry someone else. The problem is you're acting like I'm being unreasonable for having feelings about this." "You are being unreasonable." Luis stood up too, his voice rising. "This is exactly why I didn't tell you about staying in touch with her. I knew you'd overreact." "Overreact?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "So now I'm overreacting because I'm upset that my fiance has been lying by omission about maintaining a relationship with his ex?" "It's not a relationship, it's a friendship." "A secret friendship with someone you were in love with for 5 years?" The argument continued to escalate. Luis insisted I was being insecure and controlling, while I maintained that his secrecy was a breach of trust. We went round and round until we were both too angry and exhausted to continue. That night, Luis slept on the couch, and I lay awake in our bed, thinking about everything. It wasn't just about Kylie being at the wedding anymore. It was about trust, respect, and communication, or the lack thereof. The next morning, I called my sister, who's always been my voice of reason. "He did what?" Kate exclaimed after I explained the situation. "I know," I said, pacing around my bedroom. "Am I crazy for being upset about this?" "Absolutely not," my sister replied firmly. "This isn't about him being friends with an ex, although that's a whole other discussion. This is about him hiding it from you for 3 years and then acting like you're the problem for being upset." "That's exactly what I thought, but he made me feel like I was being paranoid and controlling." "That's gaslighting, girl. He messed up by hiding this, and instead of owning up to it, he's trying to make you the bad guy." After talking with her, I felt more confident in my feelings, but I still needed time to think. I took a personal day from work and went to my favorite coffee shop, the one with the quiet corner where I could think without interruption. That afternoon, Luis called several times, but I let it go to voicemail. I needed clarity before we talked again. By the time I got home that evening, I had made my decision. Luis was waiting in the living room. "Amy, can we talk about this?" "Yes," I said, sitting down across from him. "I've been thinking all day and I've made a decision. I'm postponing the wedding." His face went pale. "What, Amy? You can't be serious." "I am serious. This isn't just about Kylie anymore. This is about trust and respect. You kept a significant friendship secret from me for our entire relationship, and when I expressed valid concerns, You dismissed my feelings and tried to make me feel crazy for being upset. That's not what I was doing? I held up my hand. Let me finish. I love you, Luis, but I can't marry someone who thinks it's okay to hide things from me because they think I might overreact. I can't marry someone who dismisses my feelings instead of trying to understand them. Until we work through this, I'm not comfortable moving forward with the wedding. So that's it? You're just calling off our wedding because I want to invite an old friend? No, I'm postponing our wedding because you lied to me for 3 years and then tried to manipulate me when I called you out on it. There's a difference. The next few days were tense. Luis alternated between trying to convince me I was overreacting and giving me the silent treatment. I stood my ground, even when he tried to argue that we'd lose our deposits if we postponed. Better to lose deposits than to start our marriage with trust issues, I told him. A week after our initial argument, I was having coffee with my best friend when she dropped a bombshell. You know, she said carefully, I saw Kylie and Luis having lunch together about 6 months ago. My stomach dropped. What? She looked uncomfortable. I wasn't sure if I should tell you, but with everything that's happening, they were at that little Italian place near his office. I was picking up takeout and saw them in a booth looking pretty friendly. I felt sick. More lies. More secrets. When I confronted Luis about it that evening, he got defensive again. It was just lunch. We occasionally meet up when we're both free. It's not a big deal. Not a big deal? I was fighting to keep my voice steady. You've been having secret lunches with your ex-girlfriend, lying to me about it, and now you want her at our wedding? Do you hear yourself? Nothing is going on between us. That's not the point. The point is you've been lying to me. Why? If it's so innocent, why all the secrecy? He didn't have an answer for that. The next day, I moved in with my sister temporarily. I needed space to think, and being around Luis was clouding my judgment. He seemed shocked when I packed my bags, like he couldn't believe I was actually following through with the postponement. Amy, please, he said as I headed for the door. You're blowing this way out of proportion? Am I? Because from where I'm standing, you've been lying to me our entire relationship, meeting your ex in secret, and now you're trying to make me feel crazy for being upset about it. I need time to figure out if I can trust you again. The following weeks were hard. Luis's family called, trying to convince me I was making a mistake. His mother in particular was upset. Amy, dear, she said during one of her many calls, every couple has problems before their wedding. You're just getting cold feet. No, that's not what's happening, I replied firmly. This isn't cold feet. This is about respect and honesty in our relationship. Our friends were divided. Some thought I was overreacting, while others, like my best friend and my sister, supported my decision completely. I started seeing a therapist to help sort through my feelings. Said therapist helped me see things more clearly. Amy, your feelings are valid, she said during one session. Trust and honesty are fundamental in a relationship. Your fiance broke that trust, and instead of acknowledging your hurt, he tried to minimize it. That's a concerning pattern. About a month after I moved out, Luis finally agreed to couples counseling. Our first session with our counselor was intense. Luis, he asked, why did you feel you needed to hide your friendship with Kylie from Amy? Luis was quiet for a long moment. I guess I knew Amy might be uncomfortable with it, and I didn't want to deal with that. Kylie and I have history, but we're just friends now. I didn't want Amy to feel threatened. But by hiding it, Dr. Martinez pointed out, you created exactly what you were trying to avoid, a threat to your relationship with Amy. Over the next few sessions, we dug deeper. It turned out Luis had some unresolved issues from his relationship with Kylie. They hadn't broken up as amicably as he claimed. She had actually ended things when he was about to propose, saying she wasn't ready for marriage. I guess I wanted to prove to her that I moved on, that I found someone better, Luis admitted during one session. I wanted her to see me happy and successful with someone else. That admission hurt, but it was also a breakthrough. For the first time, Luis was being honest about his feelings and motivations. We spent 3 months in counseling, both couples and individual. During that time, I stayed with my sister, and Luis and I maintained limited contact outside of therapy. It was hard, but necessary. We both needed space to work on ourselves. Slowly, things began to change. Luis started being more open about his feelings and past relationships. He admitted that maintaining a secret friendship with Kylie was inappropriate and disrespectful to our relationship. I'm sorry, he said during one particularly emotional session. I was so worried about managing everyone's feelings that I ended up hurting the person I love most. I should have been honest with you from the start. 4 months after I postponed the wedding, Luis showed me his phone and email. He had blocked Kylie on all platforms and sent her a final message explaining that their friendship was inappropriate and needed to end. "I choose you," he said. "I want to marry you, and I want to do it right this time. No secrets, no lies." We started dating again, rebuilding our relationship from the ground up. This time, there was more honesty, more communication, and more respect for each other's feelings. We continued with couples counseling, learning better ways to communicate and handle conflicts. 6 months after the postponement, we started talking about wedding plans again. This time, we wrote the guest list together, with complete transparency about every name on it. Kylie's name wasn't on it, and Luis didn't suggest adding it. We rebooked our venue for the following spring, losing some deposits but gaining something more valuable, a stronger foundation for our marriage. This time, when we sent out invitations, we did it as a truly united couple. The wedding day itself was perfect. Not because everything went according to plan. It didn't. Our flower girl had a meltdown during the ceremony, and the best man almost lost the rings. But because Luis and I were finally ready for this step. During his vows, Luis added something we hadn't rehearsed. "Amy, thank you for having the courage to postpone our wedding when things weren't right. Thank you for fighting for us, for demanding honesty and respect. You made me a better man, and I promise to spend the rest of our lives being worthy of your trust." I later learned that Kylie had gotten divorced shortly before our original wedding date. When my friend told me this, I felt a surge of gratitude for my own intuition and strength. If I hadn't stood my ground, if I hadn't demanded better from my relationship, who knows what might have happened? It's been a year since our wedding, and our relationship is stronger than ever. We still have disagreements, but we handle them differently now. We talk openly about our feelings, even when they're uncomfortable. We respect each other's boundaries. Most importantly, we trust each other. Looking back, postponing the wedding was one of the hardest decisions I've ever made, but also one of the best. It wasn't just about Kylie being at the wedding anymore. It was about respect, trust, and having the courage to demand better when something isn't right. For anyone facing a similar situation, remember this. It's better to postpone a wedding than to proceed with doubts. It's better to face difficult truths than to live with comfortable lies. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is say no to something that doesn't feel right, even when everyone else is pushing you to say yes. Luis and I are happy now, truly happy, because we did the work to get here. We faced our issues head on, we grew together, and we built something stronger from the ashes of what almost broke us. As for Kylie, I heard she moved to another state after her divorce. Sometimes I think about her, not with anger anymore, but with a kind of gratitude. Her presence in our story, while painful at the time, led to the conversations and changes that made our relationship what it is today. In the end, this story isn't about winning or losing, or about good people versus bad people. It's about growth, about learning to stand up for yourself, and about the kind of love that's strong enough to survive being tested. Sometimes the biggest challenges in our relationships become the foundation for something even better, if we're brave enough to face them head on. Here are my thoughts about the story. First off, can we talk about how many of us would have just caved and gone along with the wedding? Like, seriously. The amount of pressure this woman was under from the future mother-in-law, from friends, from the fear of losing deposits, that's real-world stuff right there. What really got me in this story was how the fiancé Luis tried to flip the script on her. Classic gaslighting move, dude. We can all see it. "You're overreacting. You're being insecure." I was literally looking to my screen thinking, oh hell no. When he revealed he'd been having secret lunches with the ex, that's not just a red flag, that's a whole parade of red flags with fireworks. But here's what really makes this story stand out to me. It's not just another caught my partner cheating story. It's about something more subtle but equally dangerous. The slow breaking of trust through little lies and hidden behaviors. And let's be real, that's something many of us have either experienced or maybe even done ourselves without realizing how damaging it can be. The part that had me slow clapping at my desk was when she moved out. That takes guts, people. Imagine packing your bags when nothing physically wrong has happened, when everyone's telling you you're overreacting, when your whole future is planned out. That's not just strength, that's knowing your own worth. And can we talk about the therapy sessions? Because that revelation about Luis wanting to prove something to his ex? Okay, now, that's some deep-seated stuff right there. It just shows how our past relationships can mess with our current ones if we don't deal with our baggage. You know what really got me, though? Finding out that Kylie got divorced right around when the original wedding was planned. Talk about dodging a bullet. I mean, imagine if Amy had gone through with the wedding and then Kylie suddenly became single. With all those secret lunches and hidden communications already happening. I don't want to think so badly of Luis that I'd think something might have happened, but something might have happened. The fact that this story has a happy ending isn't just satisfying, it's educational. It shows that sometimes putting the brakes on something isn't about ending it, but about making it stronger. Sometimes you have to be willing to lose everything to save what matters. For all my listeners out there dealing with similar situations, whether it's about an ex, hidden communications, or just that gut feeling that something's not right, remember this story. You're not crazy for wanting honesty in your relationship. You're not overreacting for expecting transparency from your partner. And you're definitely not wrong for standing up for yourself, even when everyone else thinks you should sit down and shut up. But anyways, guys, with this, we've reached the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe and like the video/comment if you enjoyed it. I'll see you again tomorrow.